Hey everyone, welcome to the Entrepreneurs Roundtable episode 2. Today it's the three of us again, myself, Jared, Gideon, and Mike. You guys want to say hi?
Hey. Hello.
Hola.
You guys are really excited for today, I can tell.
I was way more excited than Gideon.
I'm tired, man.
I think Gideon might have actually fallen asleep during his hello, but today
Wake up, kids.
well, he just worked out, he said right before this, so it's like
Oh, good enough.
he's tired.
Yeah, it happens.
Today we're jumping right back in. We're going to pick up with our topic we didn't get to last week, and we're just going to move right on through this. So first off, we are talking about copywriting and copywriting secrets to be able to connect with customers better. I know it's something the three of us have talked about a few times in the last, 2 months as we're all launching our new ventures, and it's something that Gideon and I know you particularly have expertise in, and I've done copywriting myself, and Mike, I know you've been doing a lot of work with this, a lot of questions. You've been looking into stuff, the best way to connect with customers through verbiage and landing pages and whatnot. So let's open that up for the first topic for today.
So I actually don't really feel like an expert on this, man. I guess I do okay. I mean, I don't particularly have a big list. So I had like about 200 people when I first started, and I'm down to maybe 172 because I don't know. Once I started actually getting back into email marketing and connecting with my list again, a lot of people weren't happy with me and what I had to say, apparently. And it's kind of funny because so that first email said that I was back. I don't remember the particulars of what I said in that email, but I think maybe it has a little something to do with my cursing in the email. There's a lot of prude people who just can't stand to have a curse word in their emails. I don't know. Or I mean, part of it could be due to that, some of the people on my list, I acquired them because I was doing a giveaway thing for writing software for Scrivener, and then what I was writing back to them was not in their interests, I guess. So I don't know. I mean, I've tried reaching out.
Were they replying back and saying stuff, or were they just
No, it was just straight up just unsubscribe, and then I had one person mark me as spam, and I was like, that's a little extreme.
Marking you for spam just because they don't like your email versus
Yeah.
actually being spam.
Right. I was like, you fucker.
I've actually emailed people when they've unsubscribed and just said oh, bummer, it's sad to see you go. Just one more thing, just to
Yeah.
just to kind of reconnect. Or it's hey, sorry to see you go. Something, if you have any questions, feel free to just email me personally. Just kind of leaving that open door.
I've done that. I had one guy who unsubscribed after I sent an email within an hour. And I reached out and was basically same thing, actually I know I was just really hey, so I saw you unsubscribe, and asked why, really. I don't remember how I said it. It's a couple years ago. He was like, oh yeah, no, nothing wrong, just he was like, I don't have time for that. I don't remember what the topic was. I don't have time for this anymore. I've gotten really busy with life lately, and I'm on a lot of lists, and I just have to start doing, I can't pursue this anymore. So I'm like, oh, okay, no offense taken, cool. I don't have to worry about this for the rest of the day now.
I think the biggest thing you have to just not take it personally, which is really hard sometimes.
Well, yeah, I mean, I emailed a few of them who unsubscribed, all right, and I'm just like, hey man, I saw you unsubscribe. I was just wondering, was it the content? I mean, why'd you unsubscribe? I just want to make sure that I'm doing better in the future, And none of them replied back. They're just like, no, fuck this guy. I'm not taking the time to even give him a reasonable response. And yeah, dude, it's hard. The first time when you start seeing unsubscribes, you're like, oh my god, I'm the most horrible person in the world, right? Nobody wants to listen to me.
Yeah.
That's why I unsubscribed from you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but I mean, after maybe the 8th unsubscribe that I had in my, I guess career in email marketing, it's just like whatever, dude. Like I don't need you on my list, and you're just taking up space, and it costs more to have you on there. So
I was actually hold on. I was doing this. One of the courses I'm taking is with Joshua Hayward. It's just about like a lot of this stuff, and this kind of applies to this, I guess. But where he was talking more about haters, and I guess when people unsubscribe, they're not hating, but they're just not the right people. And the problem is think of all the people that are still on your list, which could be hundreds, right? But then you have the 2 or 5 or whatever that unsubscribe. It's like we give all our focus on that, except for the other people who stayed. And I think that's the hard thing. It's like where you have to just flip your mind and be focused on them because they still want the content. So that's who you have to really focus on, which I'm trying to do is just focus more on that than like, oh man, why is this or why did someone say this and just like blah blah blah. You know, it's just you give so much energy to it and it kills your day. It take hours away from you and you just sit there like second guessing yourself and all this crap and it's just bullshit.
yeah, exactly. I mean, considering all the unsubscribes that I did have once I started again, I actually had way more people respond back to me, and they're like, glad you're back. Looking forward to your emails. Some people ask questions, and like there's this one guy in particular. We've been going back and forth with emails, like just kind of getting to know each other and like, giving him some advice on his career path and stuff like that. And I mean, I'm focusing more on the positive aspects of it, but yeah, having people unsubscribe, it's like don't waste your time thinking about them because they will never matter in your life anyways.
Fuck them.
Oh, which reminds me, I mean, this is totally off topic, but kind of along the lines of like don't put your focus and energy into like other people that just give you a hard time. So the other day I took my son to get his camera developed from his field trip, and we go to this Walgreens, and it's like Saturday morning, and I parked next to this white car. Didn't even get close to it at all, right? Even when I open my door, like I'm always conscious and aware of like making sure that I don't hit the car. Well, this dude in the car, he rolls down his window, and he's like, "Don't fucking get close to my car, man." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Don't fucking hit my car." And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "I'll fucking kick your ass." I'm like, "What is your problem, dude?" Like, I was like, "All right," like, didn't touch your car. And I'm like, and he's doing this like, this, I don't know, he's probably like late 30s, just big dude with a big ass beard and just fucking hates the world, man. And like, it really bothered me, because it's like he's doing this in front of my son, and it's threatening. And it's like, is this guy gonna get out and start causing problems? I'm like, come on, son, like, let's go develop your camera. Like, hurry up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I thought about it for a while, but it's like, why? Like, he's gone by the time we get out there, and I'm like, I will probably never run into him again, and like, try not to put my focus on that and more on like what's actually happening right now.
Yeah, at that point, man, it's not even about you. It's totally him. It's totally him. It's just something like that. He probably had his car nailed, and it cost him a ton of money, and something. It was probably just a chain reaction event. So he's basically like, he's probably just reliving that a lot in his life, and you were just basically him yelling at the past and shit, So, but it still has an effect on your day,
I think he was just being a dick. That he's just an asshole, and he just hates people because. I mean, just the way that he looked. I mean, not to stereotype, but that's where stereotypes come from, right? Because it's based on some truth. Yeah, the guy was just, like, probably just has a really bad life, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad it was you and not me, because I don't have as much control in my mouth as you do, and I probably would have gotten in a fight with the guy. Like, dude, I wouldn't have started a fight, but like, I would have verbally been like, you serious right now? Like, and just, yeah. And he probably most likely had a crappy car and was already over too far on his side and be like, you have a piece of crap Honda a '98 Honda, and it's like way over on my side. If anything, like I should be busting your windows out because you're too far on my side, and it was hard for me to park my nice new van because you have a very nice van. And like I would have gotten mad, and that's how I got in a fight with a drug dealer that one time. It's my mouth. So I'm glad it was not me.
Man, this show is getting way better. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about like fighting crime.
That's my goal is to be Batman. So.
We're a vigilante, or you guys are vigilantes.
Dude.
Well, Jared is.
Despite being Asian, common stereotype, don't know Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Okay? I can't fight. All right? I've been in one fight my entire life, and I got jumped.
You don't have to, though, but you just have to play on that stereotype. Remember that video from, what's his name? Where they just, like, intimidate everyone by, like, I know Kung Fu.
Yeah.
Everyone backs down.
Andrew Wong?
Yeah, Andrew Wong. That was the funniest video. I love that video.
Oh, man.
Okay, so back to actual copywriting.
Yeah. So connecting with your audience, right?
No, okay, Gideon, I have to say, like, so you talk about like some of your personal stuff. You obviously, dude, you're a copywriter. Like, that's what you do full time. You were the first copywriter at AppSumo. Like, when it comes to copywriting, you know what you're talking about. You know how to connect with an audience. So, like, how about tips, like maybe in our businesses that we've used, not necessarily just like an email marketing, but like, you know, using language a certain way to attract your customer and to speak to the right customer. I know Mike, so Gideon, I know you have a lot of experience in this. And Mike, I know this is something you've really been diving into because you've been sending me stuff and sending me examples and really focusing on who's your target market, how to talk to them both in copy, sales pages, on videos, and even like on the phone when you talk to someone about how when you started you would just talk to anyone and you started to realize what kind of things you needed to say and then listen to what they said to say if they're a good fit or not. So let's jump into some actual practical stuff.
So, like, where would you want to begin on that sense?
With.
Well, how about this? I think at the very least, know your audience, and it seems like a really basic thing, but so you know, Mike and Jared, like, you know, we talked about this, like what I'm doing now instead of like creating a, you know, like an ideal client avatar kind of thing, like just out of assumptions and what I think my target market would be. I actually started talking to real people and like asking them questions. So like I'd set up interviews and be like, you know, so the service that I'm trying to develop and offer right now is for email marketing services, kind of like a done for you and work with you kind of deal. And so I set up interviews with like 4 or 5 different people who I thought or I think would be my target market. So like people with the ability to pay, they're doing entrepreneur stuff like online selling, and that, you know, they're making enough, you know, to actually pay for the service, right?
All right.
That's super important. You don't want to target poor people because poor people pay and poor people give you a really freaking hard time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I started developing my actual avatar. Like I'm getting closer and closer to really knowing who the audience that I want to be talking to, and then tailor your content around that, right? Like what's gonna be helpful and useful to them. So like whatever you write, like in copy, everybody should know, like if you know anything about copywriting, like it should speak to their desires and wants and needs and fears and all their like emotional pain points and things like that. It gets easier if you can keep that one person in mind that you're talking to that would be receptive to your message.
It's a good idea, actually.
Okay, so that's good, and that's kind of Gideon's process. So, Mike, why don't we jump over to yours? Because I know we're all a little different on this. Like Gideon, I think, is probably the most scientific about it, probably because of his background, where he's doing the interviews and whatnot. And then I know ours. Well, why don't you jump into yours really quick, then I'll talk about mine, how I kind of try to find the right words to relate to my audience.
I just talk the way that I just write the way I speak, and sometimes the grammar's crap or my spelling's off, and I really try, but I just speak natural.
Do we lose him?
Am I in
Yeah.
it?
Okay, there you go.
Okay. Sorry, was I gone?
Yeah, it stopped for a second. Speak natural.
Yeah, I just speak naturally. I speak the way that I speak, and now I'm starting to see there's a little bit more technique in it, where there's a way you can talk in a conversation, but it's the way you structure it that is the big thing. Like, introducing yourself and just saying right off the bat. Like, let's say if I was doing a video, where I was talking to someone, instead of like, that was my way of advertising. You could do the same with email, but I would start off with, this is what you're about to listen. This is about what you're about to learn. So I kind of just give them a like, hey, I'm about to do this. So it kind of gives them an out right there, and then I just go into it. But then I speak naturally the whole time, and swearing and all that stuff. I mean, if the audience doesn't care for it, then they shouldn't be following you in the first place. And you really shouldn't. I don't think that people should tailor themselves to be too much for their audience. I think they should tailor themselves exactly what they are, because that's what people are going to buy into. What's up?
Instead of tailoring themselves to their audience, tailor their audience to themselves type thing.
Yeah, it's like you are, we are. When I watched, like you see the guys out there that like we talk about all the time, like the guys like Tim Ferriss, and when I first saw, they just kind of speak their own way. And when I saw Noah Kagan, he was up in doing this presentation, and in this thing, it was like his 20-minute presentation in front of people. And at one point, he pulled up a slideshow, and he was having people respond to what they were reading back to him, and it said like, will you? And they said, will you? And they said, have sex, and everyone's like, have sex, and he's like, with me. And then he's like, who wants to have sex with me? And he's in front of like 100 people asking this question. I was like, I have to work with it. I have to like join this group. So that right there, he kind of split down the middle who was going to stay and who was going to join or who was going to go. And that's why my style is that way. It's like, this is what I'm fucking saying. If you don't fucking like it, then that's okay. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It just means that there's no fit. So you have to establish that in the way that you speak in the beginning, and you just have to really be true, and it's got to feel good. That's the number one thing, I think. It's got to feel right, and I think if you stick with that and then add some technique and strategy on top of that, it's going to be more powerful.
Yeah, like don't curse just for curse sakes.
Right.
Just because a lot of entrepreneurs do it, you need to do it too to fit in.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit with your DNA. I know, like so I've been right now or lately big into Gary Vaynerchuk, and I just listened to his book Crush It Twice, and I'm watching his videos and whatnot. And he talked about in the audiobook, he goes off script a few times and then just starts going on things. And he talked about how sometimes he's talking about legacy. And he said sometimes it bothers him with all of his cursing, because he thinks back to like his legacy. That he's on all these videos, he's up on presentations, and he's swearing all the time. He said so sometimes he's tempted to like curb that and change that. He said, but it's not his DNA. Like the swearing is him, and if he were to bring it out, it would change. It wouldn't be authentic. Same thing with his the Thunder Show, the Wine Library. He said like he's got this like really animated like hey da 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 intro, and he said that's not what most people expect for a wine show. So he loses I guess off of analytics, he loses like 12% of his audience just in his intro. Wow. And he said the business side of him, like that's super painful. Like he wants so bad to go and change the intro and make it like more casual or more normal, like hey, welcome to Wine Library TV, and he said but he can't do that because as much as it hurts to lose that 12%, it wouldn't be authentic to himself, and that's what everything is based on, is his DNA and his being authentic about who he is. And so
but I also think though that 12%, they might buy once or they might not buy at all, and even if they buy once, they might not buy again. I think it slowly starts scaling down where the 12% gets through, okay, we'll deal with the swearing, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, cool, I'll buy. And then they're kind of like, I gotta listen to this guy again. I hate this intro. So it's not appealing to them by any sense. It's not an experience that they want to be in. Like you can't bring someone who listens to like classical music to a heavy metal concert, but you listen to someone, and vice versa. But
you could, it'd be kind of interesting to watch.
But like, unless that's what does it for them, they're not going to stick around, and they're sure as fuck not going to buy anything.
No merch for them.
Yeah. But yeah.
All right, Jared. So what's your?
Okay, so with like everything, I like to just start and figure it out because otherwise I overcomplicate things. So as far as voice, now writing in video is a little different, and so I've actually really pulled back from the writing side just because not doing very many blogs, because I can write, but then I enjoy the video stuff better, right? So like sales pages and stuff, I'll follow a formula, and like Mike said, I put myself into it. I'll say things a certain way because I know that that's how I relate to it, and if they're not the right person, it's going to confuse them, or they're going to be like, if it is the right person, they're going to be like, oh, I love how he expressed that. You know, I'm big into analogies. I'm always explaining object A with object Q, and so I'm always like, I've told my whole life, and so I've just gone with that, especially like with the videos and stuff. I've just kind of started, and then as I get feedback, you repeat yourself a lot, and it's kind of distracting from the content. Oh, okay, maybe I can work on that. Or oh, this goes a little long, and so I've learned to be able to go back and like still stay like true to myself, but then cut out things that aren't necessary. Like I really probably didn't need that second story, and it kind of really isn't related. And if I think about it, that probably was more self-serving, that I was bragging that I was a part of this one thing when it doesn't necessarily add to the point other than let them know I was a part of this thing, and that makes me feel good. So I've been able to just kind of like listen and, like Mike said, speak my own voice, but then I always watch stuff back. Like I heard some people, like they've talked about how like they don't like to watch their stuff back, they don't like to read their stuff. I do, because I like to really think about why did I say that, what did it add, and then I grow with it, and then I take feedback, and so then I don't tailor just to a certain audience, obviously, but at the same time, like I do take the feedback for ideas, and then I just try to get comfortable enough. That's the hardest thing, I think, especially both with writing, but especially the video, is being comfortable enough to be yourself. So if you're a certain way, maybe you get on camera and all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's kind of hard to express that because what if people think I'm a dork, or what if they think I'm a jerk, or what if they think I'm a horrible person because I do swear, whatever the situation may be. I really, for me, it's just you got to find your voice. So you got to start somewhere, and then from there you're going to find two things. One, you're going to start to realize who your true target audience really is. Maybe you thought it was A, but then you start to see that that's not the case, and this is who really is attracted to you, and this is who's really buying and clicking through. And then two, your voice. What are you comfortable with? Because if you're a quiet person and you're doing a video show and you're like trying to get out there and be animated and be loud, that's going to be really hard, and you're going to be uncomfortable, and it's not going to come off well. Versus if you're like that kind of person, very loud and energetic, and you're like, I got to do this wine show, I got to be, or we're talking about library books, I got to be calm. Like that's going to come off, and you're going to get excited, and you're going to yell, and it's going to not fit.
Check this out. So I saw something the other day, and again, I know we're talking about copy, but I think just even presenting.
It's kind of evolved into like target audience.
I think it's more about how you speak to your audience, like
exactly.
And then I think that the other day I saw this thing on YouTube, and it was 10 YouTubers that make over $1 million. And Annoying Orange, have you ever seen this?
Oh yeah.
I'm sure your kids probably love it or whatever it is. I saw this a couple years ago. It's absolutely fucking obnoxious, but you get sucked into watching it because you're like, this is pure chaos, and I can't stop watching it. This motherfucker makes over like $3 million a year. There is a specific audience out there that will go and watch that. So I don't give a shit if you have fucking 12 people who read your shit. You could probably still make tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars if they're that dedicated. Granted, there's more than that, but even if your percentage is smaller, I think people are too focused on, I need 100%. And I hate when people are like, I need to target the world. You're like, you're fucking stupid, because the world doesn't. That's too many people. And when you have the exact right audience, they will buy and buy and buy, and they will support, and they'll tell their friends, and they'll share it, and so if you speak, I think just speak the way you speak, and like I said, add that technique to it where, there's a formula to it, which Gideon, you really know about too, and Jared, you definitely know about. Like, but you have to do it in your own tone, because that's just going to get rid of all those people, and then the wrong people will just start giving you comments like, hey, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this. Like, who the fuck are you, man? Like, you're not creating any content. I'm doing this shit. Like, you get a paycheck. I make my fucking paycheck, so go fuck yourself. Like, I love opinions from people. It's like, you get a direct deposit every 2 weeks. Don't fucking tell me like what it is that I have to do, man. I don't know.
And I think that thing of that too, and I don't know where I learned this. It might have actually been through some YouTube, the Creator Academy training, but talking about like carving out, like, okay, so you have your broader audience, but then out of that carving out like your kind of like your true, almost like a litmus test version of your audience. So for me, like, and I know Mike, we've talked about how we basically are each other's target market, right? Because you're doing your health coaching, and I'm working with you, and you're like, oh, you're like the perfect customer, and then I'm with coaching stuff, we're doing stuff together, and you're like, oh man, that idea and whatnot. So like for me, like when I do my stuff, I get a lot, like if I get comments, that's one thing, like, oh, okay, but then like if you comment something or give me advice, I take it like a lot differently than just a comment, because you are my target audience. So if you tell me my videos, which you have, were getting too long, so my first response is like, okay, well, screw you. They're my videos, and I want to talk for 8 minutes. But then I was like, well, wait a minute, though, because he's like my perfect target audience. So can I say that in less? And so I went back and a little bit of editing, but just like being focused on that and getting to the point faster. I was like, oh, I can make these 8-minute videos in 4.5 minutes. And then I watch them back, and I'm like, these are so much better. Like, even me, I enjoy watching them back better now that I've cut them down, versus if like, someone else came on and was like, oh, dude, you suck. You should only talk for like two minutes and no one cares. They'd be like, no, like, I talk a lot. I give examples. I know I go long, and I've had to accept that. That's my communication style. So there's a difference. So like with yours, I was able to take that as actual feedback and cut a couple minutes off, because I was letting myself get a little too long, versus someone who goes, online videos have to be 2 to 3 minutes long only, and that's all you can do, and then like oh, I have to listen to every little piece of content. So I think there's a balance there too.
Right, and my feedback to you is honestly came from a place where I want to see you succeed, and I think there's a balance here between the people who want to see you succeed and the people who just want to talk. Mm-hmm. The people who just want to talk, they are just basically saying, this is making me uncomfortable, I don't want to watch this. You're like, well, how can you flip that and make this positive and say like, hey man, your videos are great, I really would love you just kind of condense it more so you can get to the point faster, or you can keep more people's attention, because there's a lot of people out there like me who can really get benefit from this. Yeah. So that's where it comes from.
See, that was big, because my first response is, you know what, I know it's supposed to be within 2 to 3 minutes for videos to catch attention, but if it takes me 8 minutes to make a point, that's what it takes. And so my question was, that was my first response when you said that. I was like, well, what does it really? So I watched it back. I took my next video, which was like literally like 7 minutes and 40-something seconds or whatever. I said, I watched it. I was like, it doesn't take me 8 minutes to say this. Like, there's a few things where I added things in just because I was talking. I need to, and then, the two things I've done to counter that is, one is, the great thing is I use my iPhone and I have limited storage, so I have to like be to the point or it'll cut me off. And then two, I'll do a little bit of editing. Like I'll throw it. Sometimes I just put them directly, but other times, I'll put them on my computer, and I'll cut little things out. And in that process, I'm able to see where I'm adding things in just for the sake of talking. Like for example, if this was one of my videos and I already talked about the iPhone, and then at the end of it, I would say again one more time about the iPhone, maybe like throw in one piece of detail I didn't. Like, oh, I have 16 gigs of storage, and so it's like I started seeing, why did I have to say that 2 different times? Like, yeah, I know they were a little different, and the second time I added maybe, did I really need to talk about that twice? Why am I bringing things up multiple times? And I was like, I realized it's because I'm processing it in my mind, and so if I can just get my idea planned a little better ahead of time, I can, one, cut my video from 8 minutes down to like 6.5 minutes recording, and then I can trim out a few little things or some ums or whatever, and then I can cut that down like maybe another minute, and then my videos are much clearer, and then I watch them back, and I go from like, oh, I like to watch it once or twice just to kind of see what I said, to like, no, these are legitimately entertaining now. Like I could watch this a couple times, just because I can forget it's me and listen to the content now that I've trimmed them down. So that little piece of advice for me was huge, but at first I was going to reject it, and it's all because I had to realize he is my target audience. Like you said, he is saying it out of a point of wanting to see me succeed. So, for lack of a better term, it's out of a place of love versus a place of like hate. Like you suck. And so that was big, and that's made a big change. And because I've been able to shorten them, I've also been able to spend more time on doing other stuff, like little graphics and stuff like that. It's freed up my time and my space to be able to work on improving the video in other ways as well. So it was huge just by paying attention to that.
The bill's in the mail.
Yeah, so's the check.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of good segue to some people, or this is like a common question of like, okay, long copy versus short copy, right? Mm-hmm. So like, I guess it could work in the same sense of like long video versus short videos. Like the general, I guess the easiest way to explain the rule is like make it as long as it needs to be.
Yeah, that's my theory.
Right. But some people kind of like they write to fluff things up and make it as long as possible. Like kind of like if it's not really long, then there's no value in it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
So a good way, because you'll like ramble on and on and on, and then it like just doesn't even connect to the actual point that you're trying to make at the end. So like a good way to you can probably cut out like 20% of what you write, and that would make it like, I don't know, let's just do the 80-20 rule. You can cut out 20% of what you write and then make it 80% clearer.
Yeah.
And
I think formulas help with that, both with, like Mike just sent me over a formula for videos that I'm going to start implementing, just because having some sort of structure and I know with copywriting that was huge. I started writing and it was all off of the ADA. I learned that through the copy course that you probably sold me on with your writing. And that was the first thing, like all of that, like I just focused on that one thing. I didn't even pay attention to anything else in the course the first time I went through it. I just focused on ADA. And that's what I did forever. And then as I started getting into sales letters and different kinds of like landing pages and stuff and other types of programs, I started learning other formulas and to follow that. And I think that helps you to keep yourself on track, because instead of veering off somewhere and then coming back into your point, you can stay on point by going, okay, this section needs to be this, let me tell what I need to tell in the words I need to tell it, and no more, no less, and then move on to the next section. And so yeah, I'm a fan of formulas for that reason.
Yeah, definitely. Here's a resource you guys can pick up, and for everyone watching, pick up On Writing Well by William Zisner. I don't know if I'm like saying that right.
Okay.
He just passed away, by the way, this month.
Is he just like an older guy or like what's his story?
Yeah, he's a writing teacher, and it's his book On Writing Well. It's like the updated version shows you like how to write nonfiction in the most clear, concise possible way. And like I just started reading it. Really great book, really fun, fun to read too. So it's not like really dry, like technical information.
Right.
It's like really useful. And then like you think about your writing as you're reading it, and you're like, oh man, like yeah, I do that, and I need to really cut that out. It's a really great book if you want to learn how to like write clearly without fluffing things up.
Yeah, and then kind of with that, the one thing I wanted to add was, the whole like 2 to 3 minutes thing. Like they say, oh, because you got to catch people's attention. So to get the most amount of people to watch, your video needs to be 2 to 3 minutes. You have to think of what is your purpose. Is your purpose to be BuzzFeed and to get 1 million views? Or is your video to sell 10 coaching programs? Because if you need to sell 10 coaching programs and to do your story, then your pitch needs to be a 22-minute video, and you get 10,000 people to watch that video, and then you only need 10, it's fine to eliminate. It's fine to do what it needs to do, that kind of thing. Versus like, no, I literally want all 10,000 to watch the video. That's when you have to start following those rules. Like, okay, I want a viral video. It needs to be 2 to 3 minutes. It has to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But I don't like when people throw that rule around without thinking of what's their purpose. Same thing. Like, I mean, Mike, you do, health stuff. Like, if someone goes, oh, you've got to run every day, and you got to run like 10 miles a day, and my goal is to be a bodybuilder where all I have to do is lift 500 pounds for 90 seconds or something like that. Like running all like 10 miles a day isn't going to help me. Just because it's good advice doesn't mean it applies. You got to really focus on what your output is and what your intention is,
right.
And find whether it's a template or a strategy that actually works, and not just, oh, everyone remembers 2 to 3 minutes, so throw that one around. Maybe I don't want everyone to watch all my video because I don't want everyone to sign up. So I do a 22-minute video, and those 10 people that watch the whole thing and sign up are my 10 coaching students.
I think if it's long copy or video, if you at least put somewhere in it, like, I saw this on a video. It was, hey, if you stuck around this long, obviously this is speaking to you. So, so maybe that should say something to you. Or like, bring it into a real life scenario where at any point that they might be kind of like, I need a little bit of a lifeline here, and so you could throw in like, bear with me, I still got a little bit more left, or something like that, to just kind of say, make it more real life, I guess, is the sense. I've seen that a couple times, and that actually kept me on a video that was, I think it was 17 minutes long. and I ended up spending $2,000 afterwards for a product.
What if that video was 2 to 3 minutes? Do you think you would have still signed up for the product?
He did it so well. So maybe, you know, I was the exact target person, though. I found out after about the product. Like, I was the complete makeup of who he spoke to. So every word he said, every single thing that I did, it was like, yeah, like this speaks to me, this is me. And it probably, a lot of people left the room, but to get $2,000 out of me, you know, and maybe all he needed was 10 people. That's $20,000, right? My math right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So like
10 times 2, it's 20.
So $20,000 from 10 people, and maybe he, you know, so on YouTube, if you put it on YouTube or Facebook, and everyone's like, oh, I need to get 100 likes, but if I only need to get 10 people to make $20,000 in a day, like that's the goal, and it's just so that's. I think it all comes down to, again, and maybe I'm going against about everything I said, but if you know your audience and you can speak to them directly, like I guess you could say exactly what it is you need to say, but either it has to just be whatever you're putting out there has got to be relevant to what you need to do. I think that's to Jared's point.
Yeah, and Mike, you know, for you guys watching, like Mike's not telling you to make long videos and you're gonna make 20,000. Okay?
Yes,
like,
you are.
Like,
this is the wrong advice show.
Yeah.
The views expressed in this show are not necessarily reflective.
No, man,
dude, some people
exactly.
just taking absolute literally.
It's
like, oh, what? I gotta make a 17-minute video and then I'm gonna make 20 G's? Okay.
If I was someone who loved wrestling, like, and I loved anything involved in wrestling, I was selling something wrestling related or something, I'd lose an audience very quickly because it's about wrestling. People are like, I hate wrestling, and then other people would stay. And then if I start talking more about the product in detail, like, I could talk about it for a long time because people geek out on shit too. So if you give them enough information, they're going to start being like, holy crap. So if you can teach them along the way as well and give them little things that are free and, you know, have that nice balance, people are going to be like, holy crap, like that was awesome. And yeah, I'm going to buy this now because, you know, I just trust this person or, you know, trust what it is. And this is going to benefit me. That's the whole point. People are going to buy what benefits them. They're not going to. I'm not going to give someone $2,000 because I'm like, this is a good guy. I'm going to give him $2,000. I'm just like, this $2,000 is going to eventually make me hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's what I saw the whole time. I was like, I'm going to make $100,000 off of this guy. That's what it was. I was like, I'm not $2,000. He was like, I was like, yeah, whatever. I want to make the $100,000. Like that was how that's the brain process there.
Right. Like your videos or copy or whatever you're writing, you're leading them down a path, right? And during that path, you're showing them what like their lives could be like.
Right.
Right. You give them
100%.
the future look of like their future selves. So you know, in your case, let's say like the wrestling thing, like, oh, if I buy this mat, it's gonna like reduce the injuries while I'm practicing, and I'll get way better, and then I'll start winning more matches. Like, what's their end goal, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely.
So you gotta think about that when you're like, you know, writing copy or even video scripts. What's their desires, their end goals that they want to get to, and then how do you bridge, you know, that gap between A and B?
Well, like I've said to you, man, it's like, you know, doing email services for a company. This is how I look at it. I know we talked about this before, where I've said you'd leave money on the table. There's all these avenues to market. There's social media. You can go networking. You can do email blasts. You do whatever the fuck. There's like so many avenues you can do. You put freaking billboard up for $20,000 a month if you wanted to.
Yeah.
With email, if it's done right, it's so powerful. And so out of all those avenues, which is bringing in X amount of dollars? And if someone's like, I don't do email, you're like, do you know how much money you can bring in with good email? So if someone, it's like it's money on the table. It's a whole avenue you're not even going down. And if you have really good copy, and that's going to generate, it could generate a $10,000 to $1 million client because something you said interests them and you knew exactly who you were talking to and you got them to buy and then they trusted you and they're going to buy and buy and buy and buy. So with email, there's that whole thing that's like, that's how people are receiving content every single day. And no one, like, you think you told me about this too. I heard this a lot. No one changes their email address. Like they hold on to that for years. I've had my same number since I think 2004, so it's like 10 years, and I don't, or my email since 2004. Like I don't plan on changing that. Actually, no, different. but like you hold on to that for a really long fucking time, you know. So
Yeah.
And I think that if you, like I said, with your service, it is really freaking powerful to speak well. And sometimes you could teach people how to speak well, and sometimes you're like, just do it for me, and here's the money. Like, here's the money. Like, make me money, man. Make me money.
Well, that's the thing where like you could have like really great copy, but target the wrong people, and like it'll just fall flat on its face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could have like, you know, really crappy copy, but then target the right people, and like you can do okay. You know, like you don't have to be an expert at copywriting. Like I saw this one post on, I think it was the Call to Copy. This freelance copywriter, he was not complaining, but just like bringing an issue to point about one of his clients. He's like gone through his third revision of like writing the copy for this client, and the client sends an email saying like, I don't know, man, like I just don't love it. You know, there's just something about it.
Bad. I just we're not excited about it.
Yeah. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did. And it was basically the client was like, "Can you tell me what I think is wrong with it, so I can tell you what to fix?"
Yeah.
I
was like, oh my. And I'm just reading. I'm like, you know, I read some of the comments, and like they made some really good points, and was along the same lines of thinking that I was having was, it's not about you. Like, you are not your customer. When you're selling your stuff, you are not your customer. Who's your customer? Talk to them. What do they want? It's not what you want, right? Like, you don't have to love it as long as the damn thing sells.
Yeah, I know when I was, that's probably the best thing when it comes to copy that I am good at is becoming someone, right? I don't know a lot of the rules that you do and a lot of the other stuff. So like I know when I was writing for Mike, back before we were even like real good friends, he started off as a client, and I was writing, you know, I wrote his emails, but then I started writing blogs for him. And the first one I wrote his blog in my voice, which is close to his voice. I mean, we're similar, but it was like my voice. And then I saw some of his comments, and then I started writing in his voice. And towards the end, like I think I got pretty good at like kind of sounding like Mike a little bit. And I've done that before, where I've written for stuff like, you know, arbitrary stuff, where I've been able to jump into that mindset, almost like become an actor, right? Maybe it's my film background, where you have to, like you said, you pretend you're that person or whoever it is you're speaking to. You can't be like, hey, I'm Gideon, and here's what I think about, you know, this new laundry detergent that I'm writing for. You have to be like, you know, whatever. Not like you're lying and creating a character, but you have to get in that mindset, because otherwise it's impossible. And if you can't, because it is too far of a stretch, you're like, I'm not a house mom, I don't know why a laundry detergent would be exciting, then maybe you turn that client down and you go write for something that you think is exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I have a really hard time with that, writing for other people, like in their voice.
Then, yeah. I think, but that also helps you define your product too, I think. You know, if like I said, if you don't feel good about it, you have to find the style that works and that you works for you. Like if you're an artist and you write music, and someone pays you to write it this way, like it might be, you know, might make some good money, but it might not be the best song. It's probably not going to be your best work, and you're not going to really put a lot of heart into it, which is what they're paying for, which is you, which is the value that you bring, you know. So I think you have to know your audience, but you also have to know what it is you provide, you know, and it's this whole thing that has to make sense.
Yeah, and that was a lot of what we talked about in the early days of our mastermind, is finding the right product or service we're going to offer. Like I know all of us went through a few. Like I know Gideon was like had a few iterations of his copywriting, what kind of copywriting he was going to offer. Mike, yours was like, oh, I love Paleo Riot and I love helping people, but I don't know how I can offer it. How can I make money off of Paleo Riot? And it was in that process of who's the customer, but then coming up with what's that service that like I can stand behind, to where I don't feel like I'm having to sell it, to where I get to just talk about it, and that, you know, I'm naturally selling it because I'm so excited about it and passionate about it. And I remember that really happening with you, Mike, when you were like, you know, went from like, well, I don't, you know, I like paleo, I like CrossFit, and I'm writing about stuff, and I enjoy doing this, but I don't know how I can make money, to like, you just like messaged me in the middle of the night, like, I'm so fired up about this, I can't wait, I'm so, you know, to help people and change their lives, and this is so awesome, and it's like, yeah, it doesn't take a lot of work to sell that second one.
Yeah.
Versus me trying to, like when I was in the car lot, it was like I didn't care about the car. It was like, oh, I got to try to sell this car because I got to try to make a living, and I had to just get out of it because it was like I can't authentically, like every now and then I'd get a customer that I was like I really connected with and I really felt like they did, whatever, but for the most part it was like, oh, going through the steps. There's a huge difference from going through the steps and going like, I have to tell you about this because this is going to change your life and I'm so excited.
I think too, if anyone's watching this who is in a job and they're like, well, I don't really like, I get this a lot, like, well, I can't quit my job and I can't work for myself and I can't. It's like, fine, just like stay where you are, but make it where it benefits you in a sense. So if you are selling cars, right, you could flip it and be like, all right, if I'm selling this car, it's not my check I'm getting, but it's we get to go on this vacation, or we get to do this, or I get to go buy myself a massage, like whatever it is. Like you have to have that reason for doing it behind it. If you want to stay stagnant and you want to be like, I don't like where I am and don't want to create your own anything, like you should be playful with it and not just be like, I just show up for work, I go home, I hate being at work, I love weekends. It's like, nah, man, it's not what it's about. Like, again, it's anything you do, you have to find out why you're doing it.
Yeah. So even for me, like with the whole car thing, what I did, because I couldn't do the whole, I'll just be motivated by money. Because like I said, I didn't have any time. It didn't matter if I was making tons of. Actually, that was a different conversation I was having. So, anyways, I only had like one day off a week, so it didn't matter. I could have had $10 million, a month, and I couldn't. There's only so much I could do with one day off. So what I did is, one, I kept reminding myself, this is temporary, I'm here to learn. I did this on purpose. I got this job to learn how to sell and really how to get more comfortable just talking to people and not being, shy or intimidated. And then two, I had to focus on the areas I was good at. So I didn't like going up and, the first, like trying to, well, come over here and look at this. I know you said this, but I got to try to, I have to tell you this anyways, and then blah, blah, blah. What I focused on was, because I had recently gotten a copywriting before that, and I had a pretty good voice and a pretty good way to say things, I started rewriting all of our emails. So I'd go through, like, we have an not automated, but we have like a CRM system, and the emails suck, right? Like the dealership pays like 60 grand for this system and like a 20 grand a month for the system and the database. It's all about the database, right? And so the interface sucks to use, and the emails are horrible. They're like not even junior copywriter status. They're like super spammy, sleazy, hey, come in and see this car, and just stupid stuff. And so I started rewriting.
I just found my next client.
So I started rewriting these things, and that was part of my free time. And then I started getting so many more appointments because instead of sending the like corporate, like, okay, on day 13, after they followed up, send this email, I would write my own. And so like I'd go through and I just rewrite stuff. I'd start sending my own, and I started getting really good at getting people back. Or I would take like the pile of like just like dud leads, basically, like from the service department, where it's like, oh, they came in and they had their oil changed, and we noticed that their car is like 7 years old, so maybe they want a new one. And by using these, my own emails, I was getting so many more appointments off of people who weren't necessarily that interested, because I could know where, as much as I could, where they're coming from, and write these custom emails. And so that got me fired up to see how many appointments I could set off of writing my own emails and writing my own phone scripts when I called. And so that was something like to keep myself, until I was able to move on to starting my own business, to keep myself. So it's kind of like, can you find your own thing? Like, what is it that you are good at, and how can you focus on that while you focus on your, your exit strategy of getting to your own business or whatever it is you're trying to do?
Yeah, and take initiative too. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize is that, I actually have people who I hire on for my animation company, Drive 80, like, I have freelancers who do a project from copy to animation to design, voiceover, everything like that. So I have this whole system. And from having people on board, it's really nice when people take initiative and they say, oh, I thought of this, or I love, or I like my position, or I like the company, or I like what I do, I want to advance on it, and I came up with this, and I'll come back and I'm like, holy crap, that's awesome. So sometimes if you're working at a job and you think you're part of a cog in this whole system, it's like, and you're like, well, I'm not getting anywhere, and I know it's kind of going off the whole copy thing, but it's like, I'm not going anywhere and I'm not advancing. It's like, to Jared's point, take initiative. Think of how you can do something in advance on it, because that could just, it's the compound effect. These little things can add up, and all of a sudden you become a thought leader in the company. You get recognized, or in Jared's case, he's like, all right, well, I'm selling cards. It's not great. Let me take a look at this. Oh, that's awesome. And he challenged himself. He got excited. It got him money, and it probably got him recognition too. And the company got people to come back there, And
actually, to that point, it did. So, because I 2 different carlets over the span of a year, because I moved. And the first one, I got pulled in. Like, the internet manager saw an email I sent, and he was like, "Where'd you get this?" And I said, "He's like, in the thing. What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, it's not one of the. Which template is it?" I go, "Oh, it's not a template. Where'd you get it?" It's like, "Oh, I wrote it." It's like, "You wrote this?" And I was like, "Yeah." So then he pulled me in, like, he started training me as an internet manager, which is by far a much better job than just a sales associate standing out in the rain and the heat all day. So part of my time, like when it was slow, I'd come in and he trained me, made me much better. It's probably 90% of my actual learning came from like getting pulled on by this guy who literally started when he was like in his early 20s in the 80s selling Volkswagens, so like way, he's lots of sales experience, and he would challenge me on stuff. I learned so much. And then the second time I got a job, I got in the internet department, which again was better. I got an office, air conditioning, I had a desk, I was sending out emails, doing phone calls instead of just standing out in the sun all day long fighting the other guys for that one person who drove in, all because, and normally it's a position you have to promote up, but all because of that experience. I was able to say, hey, in the interview and talk about that. This is what I did. I got pulled in. I got trained by the internet manager. This is why you should let me have the internet manager position, even though I haven't already spent a year proving myself at your dealership, and I was able to get that job. So I did get the reward off of it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, dude.
Cool. Well, I think we pretty much used up all of our time just this topic that kind of evolved from copywriting to customer service to whatever. So we'll push our other topics again just until next week, and that's the way we'll roll with this. So
can I just say one thing though before we go?
Yeah, go for it.
Gideon brought up a cool point. You will listen to when I speak. You're obviously not my target market, so shut up.
But did you say no?
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. So Gideon's point before, he made a comment, and I caught it, and it was actually really smart, saying had crap emails, and so I started writing them, and Gideon goes, I found my new client. So this is what made me think. Let's say we talk after this, and Gideon was like, wow, I could actually target car dealerships. There's a shit ton of car dealerships, and there's probably, all of them probably suck at email blasts. And to Jared's point, he probably brought in, he has a number behind what he brought in with his emails. So let's say Gideon was like, I want to target car dealerships. So he can go at them and say, look, like this is what I do. I just do email. I see that you have working, or you're worried that you have this giant email list and you don't know what to do with it. And they're like, probably like, yeah. You're like, well, I write emails specifically, and my point is, and you're like, I just work with car dealerships. So then you have a niche, and then all you do is then it starts really narrowing down your focus where you can. So being an entrepreneur is the biggest pain in the ass because you're all over the place. But when you have a focus, you can work backwards from that, and you could say, I just work with car dealerships. I do email blasts, and my goal this year is to get 20 clients at 10 grand a month. And so like, I know you're not probably gonna do this, Gideon, but I'm saying, like, to anyone out there who's all scattered, you can really niche it down. So if you find your target, you know exactly who you're speaking to, and you say to them, I only work with your industry. That makes you an expert.
Yeah. And
that's going to bring in a lot of people. And you're talking about email. They're like, we didn't even think about email. And you're like, you're leaving money on the table. So it's like, I work with you, and you're using you're not even using marketing that's bringing in X amount of dollars. You're wasting. All of a sudden, that speaks to someone like, wow, we need to talk. So if you could if you can niche it down, that's another suggestion. Just like totally do that. But it's got to make sense. Then it's got to come with your gut. If you want to do that, then you should do that. And he's probably like, I really want to fucking work with car dealerships. But maybe there is an industry out there where you can just target them niche and say, like, I only work with you. And then just do it for like a couple months. And if you make a ton of money, you're like, all right, I'll extend this for another couple months. If you find a couple months it doesn't work, then they're like, all right, I'm going for another industry. But like, if you stay in that focus, You know, because I did that with a buddy of mine. He was going after bowling alleys, and I said, you know, I was like, how many have you done? He's like, well, I got one, and I had a lot of success. I was like, you should go after another one. And I think I said this last week, but he went from making like, you know, $100 a month with this client to making $300 a month with this client, and then he got him a referral to another bowling alley. So, you know, he was like, holy crap, dude, that actually worked. And I was like, you know, bill's in the mail.
No,
Yeah, that's a really great point. And you know, the whole niche thing, like pick one skill that you have and you can develop.
Can you check your mic connection? It's like really staticky.
Better.
It's got like
It's
an
a little
echo
better,
on it.
yeah.
And I really want to hear what you have to say too, because it sounded really good.
Yeah. So pick one skill that you either have or develop, and then
It's still bad. It's still coming in weird. I don't know why.
Like rebel.
Hold on.
Try that. Wait, just say something.
Talk.
Talk. Talk. I don't think you can hear us.
No. Aw.
Fuck.
Of course, it's right on that golden nugget to close the show off with.
I know, man. I was like, crap. It was like, what are you going to talk about? Gideon, blink your eyes if you can hear us.
He's frozen.
Oh, is he frozen? I was like, why is he staring?
Yeah, he's not. He's either frozen or he's really mad at us right now.
Or he's really good.
Yeah. Okay.
Shit.
Well,
God damn it.
I know we're opening next week with. Oh, here he goes. Here he goes. Now there's two of them. Back?
Ah.
It's Gideon and his evil brother, Gideon. All right, what were you saying?
Before you forget it.
Yeah.
What's that?
What were you saying?
Okay, is it coming out clear now?
Yeah.
Yes, very clear.
Okay. All right. So pick that one skill that you have or you can develop within like the next few months. Then pick one niche, right? So like for me, when I first got started in copywriting, I picked copywriting as a skill because it's really high in demand and it's a need for good copywriters. And then I chose, I just chose one niche, which is the dental industry. And I chose that because they have money. If I can get them one, like, I forget what type of procedure it's called, but just one client a month, that's like $10,000 to $20,000 for them,
Yeah.
right? Like a total mouth reconstruction, you know, veneers and the whole 9 yards of it, right? If I can get them one a month with that, that's like $20,000 a month. And so I didn't pursue that industry because doctors are a pain in the ass to work with. Well, they're not really doctors. They're dentists. But yeah, no, they're just a pain in the ass to work with, man. Like, and they don't want to listen to anything you say because they're the one with the degree and you don't have one and yada yada yada. But they're doing everything fucking wrong, and you can show them plain as day. And I'm going on a rant right now, which I shouldn't be. Anyways,
do it. We're losing our whole market here.
Yeah, just pick one skill, one niche, and then just work it. If you can help somebody solve one particular problem, like it's worth it, and then you can charge more. So like when you start getting some success, you know, on your belt, like you can start charging more, right? Well, depending on what the value is that you're providing them in the end, right? They need to be getting a positive ROI on this.
Right.
I completely agree with that. That's the reason we talked about the whole car lot thing. Like, I had this whole folder with this whole plan to go in and do the video and stuff like that, and be able to create these videos to send out in their social networks to get so many more appointments for car lots. And then it came down to I did that for a year working at the car lot. Like, I don't want to work with car lots, so I shelved it. I even talked to some of my film buddies about it, and they're like, we don't really want to make videos for car lots. So instead we're like, okay, well we have this video, for social media to drive traffic idea. So if that's the skill, like you said, and we're like, we don't want to pick that niche, and so now we've switched over to actual startups and using that to do what we're doing. And so that's what I'm doing now, and I'm having great feedback and response, and even the back and forth of all the questions versus if it was with the sales manager, I'd be like, oh man, what? Just freaking buy it, like, like I don't want to deal with this. Versus with the entrepreneurs, I'm like, oh, these are great questions. Okay, let me write that one down. I need to, address that one, in the future. And I feel like I'm making, as I'm even talking about this, I'm like, oh, I feel like this guy could become a friend down the road. Like, this is a connection I've made versus like, whatever, some car lot. So no, that's great advice. I love that, Gideon. Thank you for reconnecting your mic so we could hear that.
Yeah. No, you're welcome.
All right, guys. Any last words?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, I will not say see you next Tuesday this week because I was about that. So we'll see you guys next week on Tuesday at 1 p.m. I don't know if that's any better, but
do you want to close out and just kind of give a little plug for anything you're doing?
Yeah, let's do that again. Why don't you start, Mike?
Oh, great. Put myself on the spot. Great. I don't know what this fucking say. So check out. Right now I'm just focusing on health coaching, and I have this new product that I'm going to launch shortly, and the idea is to get a lot of people on board to challenge themselves. And there's actually a tier system where once you beat a level, it's like you level up like a game. Once you finish a level, you actually get something as a reward, and then you start again for like a harder level and a harder level. So actually, as you're doing it, it's actually going to give you something to focus on, give you a goal, really challenge yourself. And these, I was looking at these, I was like, these are fucking hard. Like, so I'm actually going to get in on it with it, and it's going to 6 months to a year to a year and a half to actually complete this thing. So that's the new thing I'm focusing on. So check out paleoriot.com. I'm going to start promoting it more once I get it all narrowed down, but that's what I'm promoting.
Cool.
Nice.
Well, I mean, for me, if you are just an entrepreneur who's trying to start, build, or grow your business, just check out bizdevheroes.com, and there's a lot of inspiration, strategies. Of course, check me out on YouTube for my videos, validators, and whatnot. If you're a CEO or you work at an actual startup and you're looking to drive more traffic to your site, hit me up about the blog trailers that I'm developing and working with. Worked with Cliff Ravenscraft, Podcast Answer Man's creative video, and done some others. So hit me up on that about how to use those kind of, to drive a lot more traffic. Like BuzzFeed's using their little short videos that they have to drive. I don't know what they're driving traffic to, but I guess their website. But to do something similar with these sketch videos that we're creating trailers for your blogs on, to get people to actually click through and read them, and then hopefully sign up for your free trial or whatever it is that you're offering.
All right. I don't have anything to plug, but I do want to hear from you. So, like, regarding email marketing, so like if you have any questions, you need advice, I'd love to talk to you. You can just email me at gideon@gideonwalker.com, and I answer all my emails. So feel free to reach out. I just want to hear about what your struggles and frustrations are with regarding email marketing and everything like that.
Yeah, Gideon doesn't want to say anything. He just wants a pen pal.
Mm-hmm. They're fun.
Oh, that's too funny. All right, cool, guys. So, yeah, see you next week. Same time, same place. And thank you guys for joining in. Do us a favor if you, let's take Mike's advice. If you made it this far, an hour into this video, do us a favor and actually share this video on your Facebook timeline, because you obviously enjoyed it if you made it this far. How's that, Mike?
Yeah, or share it with someone who you think, even if you're not an entrepreneur and you know someone who actually is struggling and being one and it just needs niche advice. Because there's a lot of people out there who want to start a business or are doing businesses and they have a lot of struggles. So share it with them. Just tag them. That's it.
Cool. All right.
Next week's topic?
Next week, we're going to pick up with the one that we left off from today, which is, oh man, I moved it, but there it is. It is passion versus no, I don't know. Let me look it up. It's right here.
No, we did that last week, didn't we?
It's loading. Okay. Hey, that was. Oh, I was like, how'd you load that? Passion versus promotion. So the concept of, well, we'll get into it next week. Passion versus promotion, and if we have time, we'll jump into Gideon. I know that you're gonna be excited about this one, particularly because I've heard you rant on this, and it's a good rant. Nature versus nurture. Do you have to be born with the entrepreneur gene, or can you develop it? So that'll be next week.
That's cool. And then we'll do the next one. Will be Gideon's hatred for dentists. After
Stupid dentists.
How dentists are not real doctors.
Yeah.
I think that's probably that statement. If you ever said that, that's probably why you had a hard time working with them.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Okay, guys. We'll see you next week.